Welcome to Sweetcast. This is Clint, and I wanted to talk about the future of comics. You'll notice I said comics, not the future of Comicsgate, and that's because I think Comicsgate is going to be leading to something much bigger, and I really hope that's the case. So tonight there's going to be a discussion/debate that Rakita Law is going to be hosting tonight, and I think that is exactly what we need to be doing, is discussing comics, discussing the future and where this is going to bring us. The reason why I think this is so important, as some of you know, I have been reaching out to people on the other side on Twitter. I've been trying to invite somebody onto Sweetcast to either do a live stream where we can discuss comics, Comicsgate, or even a pre-recorded show, really anything. Just I wanted to speak to somebody on the other side. So far, I haven't had any luck there, but it did lead me to some interesting reflection that I wanted to share. A big thing that keeps occurring over and over again is people think that Comicsgate is a hate group or a hate mob or, racist or bigoted or homophobic, everything that, they like to call us. And you know and I know that that's not true. However, the reason why it's not true is because we need to draw a line. And I think this is old news, but Ethan Van Sciver and Vox Day had a little bit of sort of political maneuvering, we'll say, over Comicsgate. And I think this was healthy because Ethan Van Sciver was willing to sort of put up a fight here and not just go along with Vox Day's vision for the future of Comicsgate. I think that Comicsgate is better for it, and comics are better for it. I'll tell you what I mean. So there's this video on YouTube called, it's by 3 Arrows, called How to Fall Down the Anti-SJW Rabbit Hole. I watched the video. I disagree with so many things about this video, but what I appreciated is that 3 Arrows made some kind of reasoned argument to support his claim. I don't watch a lot of his videos, so I don't fully understand his politics and his point of view, but based off this video, he's basically saying that YouTube has been taken over by the right, and because of that, there are people in the fringes of the right, the far right, that are benefiting from this. Okay, so in essence, I agree that YouTube has become very conservative. I don't think that's a bad thing, though, considering that mainstream media is so authoritarian. It is so left, we'll say progressive. And so I think that there are a lot of moderates, and you might lean a little to the right, you might lean a little bit to the left, you might be religious, you might not be religious. It doesn't matter. The internet is the equalizer. It allows people to get out there and state their opinions, learn about things. I think that this is an important counterbalance to the rest of mainstream news and mainstream media. So one thing, however, that was pointed out in this video that I think was meaningful is that he mentioned that anti-SJWs begin to become that which they fight. And what I mean by that is it becomes very reactionary. Anti-SJWs can become very reactionary. Now, I don't describe my politics as anti-SJW. I don't agree with social justice as a framework for thinking or an ideology. I'm definitely anti-social justice, and I'm against social justice warriors. However, politically, I am moderate. I do lean right, and I will freely admit that. But I'm by no means far right. So if I was defining myself, or if I become reactionary against social justice warriors, therefore I would be willing to side with anybody that is also anti-SJW. Hence why we bring up Vox Day. Vox Day is against social justice warriors, but he is not somebody that I agree with. I mean, I didn't do a lot of reading on Vox Day, but I'm pretty familiar with alt-right, and this is from his blog, but alt-right ideology. And yes, and it even says here on the blog, he believes in nationalism and what they would call racial realism, which I also disagree with. This is extreme. So the reason why I take you here is to tell you I am a proud supporter of Comicsgate. I am drawing a line to keep out the fringe. And I think that most Comicsgate supporters do the same. There's going to be varying degrees of points of view and opinions, and that is great. That's what we want. I don't agree with Vox Day. However, I do support his right to have freedom of speech. And that's about all I'm going to say about him. But, okay, so I bring this up because I had some interesting conversations on Twitter. I had been trying to find somebody that was willing to discuss and actually have a civil discussion about Comicsgate. If they want to debate, that's fine, but I'm even okay with just interviewing and getting their point of view. And so I asked about that, and this is primarily the kind of stuff I get from people on the other side. There are really two sides to Comicsgate. The side full of bigots and bullies, and the side that's made up of lies they tell. Okay, I don't think I have to tell anybody. This is very close-minded. It's absurd. And the funny thing is it comes from, let's see, Adult Mutant Ninja Socialist. Oh, man. Yeah, so here's the thing. If you're Comicsgate, there's been a lot of precedents set. I'm going to do it as well. I will draw the line. And I'm not going to go with people on the fringe. I'm not into extreme politics. I'm into good comics. And anybody that is reasonable, I want to talk to you. However, on the anti-Comicsgate side, I have not seen the same. This person seems a little extreme to me. No one's drawing a distinction. All right, so I don't bring up this thread to point this Twitter user out or single her out, but I did want to show sort of my process here. So Chrissy says, Comicsgate sweetheart Edwin touted as super nice and not a white supremacist who encourages white Christians to outbreed minorities, going after Hispanic creator American citizenship status. This is the real number one reason I stopped counting why I say Comicsgate is a hate movement. Okay, so that's a pretty big claim. She posted something, and then further down the list, she said, update, the context here appears to be Eddie going after John for being friends with Fox. It's my bad, but Eddie repeats so many racist talking points in his philosophical debates, it's hard to keep up. Okay, so immediately here I thought, wow, you are throwing somebody under the bus, and not only somebody, you're throwing the entire Comicsgate support, group or whatever we're called, a community. You're throwing all the community under the bus because of a tweet that you saw or something. And not only that, you didn't have it in the right context, and it didn't mean what you thought it meant. So I just left a gif here of, facepalm. And this, I want to point out, this is me being reactionary. Yes, it is kind of obnoxious for people to be so willing to, just condemn and, before they get the full context. However, Chrissy responds to me, you must not be used to seeing fact-checking taking place on either side of the aisle. It's okay, facts are greater than ego any day. Okay. So when I read that, I thought for a moment, and I realized that I was wrong. This is me being reactionary. She made an effort to correct her mistake. She made a retraction, which is more than I can say for any mainstream news outlet, more than I can say for Marvel or DC. Like they're not going to apologize and say that they're sorry and sort of soften the tone. But here is a person, a Twitter user, that did. So I responded, actually, I agree. My initial reaction was to criticize, but that was wrong. You have my respect. Even though we may disagree on specifics, thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So the reason I bring this up is not to show that, oh, I can swallow my pride, but I think that this is very natural, especially as the comics industry is going through some growing pains, we'll say. There's going to be a temptation to be very reactionary, and I don't think that's good for comics. We want to be leading to the next thing, not reacting to what is. Reacting can be nice. I mean, to point out flaws, to be a counter movement. I think that's important. It has always been important for dissent to be there all throughout politics and history. But I think we're ready for the next step. Okay, so I went on and asked her if she would like to be on Sweetcast so I could interview her and just, have a civil discussion and get her perspective on things. She declined, which, it's okay. I do not fault her for that. She did, however, refer me to Renfamous at Renfamous, and I don't think I have that kind of pull. I don't think she's even going to return my message, but I did send her a message, and we'll see what happens. But if I go down her Twitter feed, this is exactly the problem. I just got done explaining that Comicsgate wants to have good comics without extreme politics. And I think Ethan Van Sciver demonstrated that he's willing to draw a line. I hope that I've demonstrated that I'm perfectly willing to draw a line. Comicsgate is not owned by anyone. It is open. It is a movement of people with different ideas and opinions. However, on this side, anti-Comicsgate, I'm reading through some of her comments, and they're just so ham-fisted. Let's the one she's got pinned to the top. It's time to stop letting hate groups use your conscience and sense of decency against you. Groups like Comicsgate will dox, harass, and abuse people for months, then invent a controversy, feign outrage, and count on your conscience to let them get away with blatant hypocrisy. Okay, this is ridiculous. You don't want... she's basically making a case for having no sense of decency against people that are pro-Comicsgate. And, this to me... This is Fringe. And it's not just her, but it's not just that tweet. But I go through here, and there's a lot of very just blatant, she's anti-Comicsgate, but she's just so full of herself about it and so holier than thou. So I would love to have her on the show. We could talk about it. We could debate, whatever. I think I heard that she requires you to give some kind of a donation to Planned Parenthood or something like that in order to have her on. I will not be donating to Planned Parenthood. I would be open to negotiating, donating to something else. I like maybe a Democratic candidate, the Democratic Party. I don't know. If she's willing to talk about it, I would be happy to negotiate. Okay, so moving forward, I think what needs to happen, and I hope that this gets brought up in the debate tonight, is that there's the option of creating a comics publisher. And this sort of takes us full circle. Vox Day was trying to create a publishing imprint for Comicsgate. And I think what needs to happen is things need to go a little bit like Image Comics did. I think that there are a lot of really, really talented and business savvy creators within Comicsgate, and they would be able to start a publishing company, and that publishing company could specifically seek out titles that are based on how good they are. When I submit any of my scripts to a publisher, or I'm working with an artist to get something published, I'm always worried that publisher is turning me down because I'm not putting social justice into my scripts. I just want to tell a good story. And I want to be able to submit to a publisher where I know they're turning me down only if my script isn't good enough. Or, for business reasons. Maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe it's not going to sell. I don't want to be turned down because of my politics, because I refuse to write social justice into my politics. So I think something like this is a good idea, because then now we have access to distribution outlets. We have better prices on printing. There's just the volume. So that would be one of my suggestions. I also think it's not like it's the Comicsgate publisher. I hope that it paves way for more publishers to be out there. And you can have a publisher that is right-leaning. It could be the Fox News of comics. That's fine. Go for it. You can have social justice comics. Go for it. What I don't want is to have something that's been around forever and I know it as something that's not political, it's just for fun, and then have that be taken over by an extreme political ideology. That's all I want. So those are my prescriptions for the comic book industry moving forward. I don't really have any pull or any say right now. However, I can do my part by talking about it, and I'm going to be writing more comics. I have got the best script I did. I still want to read one that I did before. Unfortunately, it didn't get published. It never will get published, but I still think it's a great story. So I'm going to find a way. I think I'm going to get Steph in on this one, and we'll read through the script and sort of do a reading there. So let me know what you think. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and comment below. Tell me what you would do to improve the comics industry and prepare it for the future. And I will see you in the next episode.